When I died with a smile on my face, right before my brother's eyes, he looked as if the anguish might tear him apart. Yet, for 21 years, he hadn't stopped wishing I would meet this exact end. It all traced back to my 5th birthday, the day I had innocently hoped our parents would come home from their business trip to celebrate with me. They rushed back that night but never made it. A car accident took both their lives. From that moment on, my brother resented me, despised me. He didn't just stand idly by as our cousin snatched up my work as her own, he encouraged it. And when my landlord threw me out, it wasn't a random cruelty, it was my brother pulling the strings. All he had ever wanted, from the very beginning, was to see me die a miserable death. But when he finally got his wish, why did he cry, pleading for me to come back, begging me to call him brother one last time, eternal dawn? I had just gotten home when my phone rang. It was Ethan Perry. The crumpled diagnosis paper was still in my hand. His voice was as cold as ice. Where are you now? Before I could answer, he barked another order. Today is the launch event for Eternal Dawn. Get here on time. Don't be late. And with that, he hung up, curt as ever, not a single unnecessary word. The last rays of sunset filtered into the room. I sat at my desk and tore the diagnosis paper into shreds, watching them scatter across the table. Just then, Ethan sent me an address. Steeling myself, I exhaled deeply, then slipped on my finest dress and the one expensive piece of jewelry I owned. If I were to go to this launch event, I would attend it in style. Eternal Dawn was, after all, my mother's last design sketch. I had poured my heart into bringing it to life, fulfilling her vision, stitch by careful stitch. But when the host finally took the stage, he announced, "Please welcome the creator of Eternal Dawn, Hannah Lowe." I froze, half standing, fingers clutching my dress. The entire scene was a cruel joke. As curious eyes darted in my direction, I slumped back into my seat, my grip trembling. Up on stage, Hannah clicked the mouse, displaying my work on the high-resolution giant screen. The host then asked her about the inspiration behind the name Eternal Dawn. She scanned the crowd and gave me a sweet, mocking smile. "As you all know, this design is my aunt's only surviving sketch from her lifetime," she explained, her voice tinged with nostalgia. "The name Eternal Dawn is a tribute to her love for my uncle. She always spoke of spending every dawn and dusk together, from their youth to old age." She paused, her eyes dimming as though overcome by emotion. "Each stitch carries my love and respect for her. My aunt's love was for my uncle, and mine is for her, my dearest mentor." Her words landed a thunderous applause. But none was louder than the approving claps to my right. Ethan was gazing up at her with pride and admiration. Clenching my fists, I forced myself to ask, "Why?" Despite the noisy crowd, his voice reached me with chilling clarity. "Because you're unworthy." His disdain cut deep. "Letting your name taint Eternal Dawn would only insult Mom's legacy." The resented sister, Ethan was my brother. But for the past 21 years, he had harbored nothing but hatred for me. In his eyes, I was the one who killed our parents. It happened on my 5th birthday. Mom and Dad were away on business in a nearby province, but they hadn't forgotten me. As soon as they wrapped up work, they called to ask what I wanted as a gift. Young and naive, I only wished to celebrate with them and my brother, to share my birthday cake, to share that simple joy. To make that wish come true, they jumped in the car and rushed home through the night. But instead of a birthday, it became a day of mourning. My birthday marked the day they died. After they were gone, the family tore itself apart, fighting tooth and nail for custody of me and Ethan. None of them cared for us, it was all about getting their hands on our parents' wealth. Finally, my maternal uncle stepped in, beating them all to win custody. When he brought us home, his eyes were red with grief. He promised that every penny of the inheritance would stay safe for us, untouched. My cousin Hannah, who was just a child herself, gripped Ethan's hand and promised, "Don't cry, Ethan. I'll protect you from now on." From then on, I realized my brother's capacity for kindness. He remembered every little thing Hannah liked, waited for her after school, and rushed to defend her if anyone dared to pick on her. Every holiday, he would craft a perfect surprise just to make her smile. That was how a brother should treat his sister. But all I ever saw in his eyes was resentment toward me. This grudge had stretched on, undisturbed, from my 5th birthday to the present day. The next day, when I arrived at the office, something felt off. People gave me sidelong glances as if they had something to say but couldn't bring themselves to speak. I shrugged it off until I reached my office, and found my things tossed out in a chaotic heap on the floor. My belongings lay strewn across the floor, my designs shredded, torn nearly in two. I couldn't keep the edge out of my voice. "What's going on here?" A familiar chuckle answered from inside the office. Hannah appeared in the doorway, flashing me a bright, "Oh, hey, Amelia," she said, voice dripping with false innocence. "Sorry about this. Ethan says I'm now the official designer of Eternal Dawn and the company's head embroiderer. So this office will be mine now." She raised her brows with a smirk. "Guess you'll have to join the common workspace." The room went still, tension hanging heavy in the air. "Have you no shame?" My assistant, Melody, stormed over, standing protectively in front of me, her face red with anger. "Everyone knows Amelia is the maker of Eternal Dawn. Don't you feel an ounce of shame? Stealing it like this?" Hannah's eyes welled up immediately, turning her into the perfect picture of wounded innocence. Her red-rimmed eyes and trembling nose played to the crowd with flawless ease, winning sympathy, as always. And sure enough, as soon as her sobs began, Ethan's furious voice thundered through the silence, splitting the air like a crack of lightning. "Amelia Perry, get in here.